Hey, this is Brady Oliveira, and you're listening to UND Football 360.
Hawks rally and survive a Sycamore scare. This week, they land in Kentucky to take on Missouri Valley newcomer Murray State. It's Hawks versus Racers, and this is UND Football 360. This is UND Football 360. Shannon Schweigert, along with former Fighting Sioux All-American Kelly Howe and 2001 national champ Matt Nelson. Matt Nelson, you're first out of the gate. There's 47 seconds left Saturday. What are you thinking?
I was a little nervous. I was kind of deflated after that. As I came back, went ahead by 3. And I was like, okay, all right, here's the time to prove yourselves, guys. Here's the chance to prove what kind of football team you are. Here is everything that you want in a season. You want to go in overtime at least once during the season so you can prove yourself later on in the year, right, when you go into the playoffs. So I like to see us in a tough situation, and I like seeing us prevail at the end and finding a way to win. That's what good football teams do. Is they can play ugly, but they always find a way to win.
Kelly Howe, same question. 47 seconds left. I think I saw you down on the sideline. What are you thinking?
Well, I had tweeted earlier in the game, probably second quarter when it was 7-0. I'm like, we lose this game, season's over. Okay, because we've seen this movie before. Okay, with Idaho State in 2015. You go 7-4. Now 8-3 you might get in, but you go 7-4 with this loss, you're out. Okay, they're going to hold it against you in the worst way possible. We already seen that. So I had faith, but nervous. Obviously, extremely nervous.
I was like, oh man,
how are we? But then we had 2 timeouts. So we had timeouts. So it was like we're gonna move, but the downfield passing game isn't our strength apparently for 3.9 quarters, because all of a sudden we hit Klein right down the middle. We actually hit Caden Dennis. He dropped the one. That was open too.
Right.
So, and I don't know, did we learn something, Matt? Let's look at it this way. Did we learn something that can be applied to the first 3 quarters of a game?
I think so. I think that I was more nervous before in that first quarter. I'm like, gosh, we've gone 5 quarters now without scoring a touchdown. We've gone almost 6 quarters. Mm-hmm. And I think, hey, we have the confidence to be able to come back and just win a football game. Let's apply that and learn from it and move on. And I actually spoke to one of the players at dinner, ran into him after the game, and he was really excited about what they were able to accomplish in overtime. So I think the camaraderie came together. I think they came together as a team. So I think that can be learned for the next game.
Yeah, I think that's one big part is belief. It goes back to what we said, belief. But UND needs to move faster on offense. Let's move. Let's get the ball moving. And we look pretty good doing it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's what I was thinking with 47 seconds left. I sit at about the 20-yard line in the upper section on the north end zone or north side. You can probably guess where I'm looking. 30-yard line.
Nice. Yep.
I was a kicker.
Right.
I'm looking at where did we got to get to CJ? I wanted at least 47. My mark was the 30-yard line. Okay. So I'm doing the math, and I'm not very good at math, but I'm doing the math from the 25-yard line, our own 25. I'm doing the math, 47 seconds left, 2 timeouts. How do we got to move the ball down to get to the 30-yard line? Well, we're going to break down the fourth quarter. We're going to break down the overtime. We're going to break down the whole game for you in this episode of UND Football 360. Coming up, we have a brand new sponsor that we're going to talk about. During that breakdown, we're going to look around the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and it will be brought to you by the Toasted Frog in Grand Forks and Fargo. We do not have a Development Homes 360 guest this week, but we are going to thank Development Homes. In our second segment, we'll have the Thunder Lake Lodge 360 game preview, the Hail Mary quiz, and Kelly and Matt's picks, which are brought to you by Rumors Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino. Before we get to all of that, this show takes sponsors. We are an expensive bunch here at UND Football 360, and we want to thank Rumors Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino, our longest-standing, most sustained sponsor here on the show. Development Homes Incorporated of Grand Forks, Thunder Lake Lodge of Reamer, Minnesota, the Kelly Howe Agency, Nodak Mutual Insurance, Interstate Industrial, Bakken Oilfield Services, and our newest sponsor, the Toasted Frog in Grand Forks and Fargo. Let's swing it right in to the Kelly Howe Agency Nodak Mutual Insurance Rewind. And before, I'm going to talk about streaks. UND is on a losing streak. Fellas, University of North Dakota won the first 4 coin tosses this year. We have now lost 4 in a row.
Oof.
And why is that critical? Well, it's about when you get the ball and when you everything else, but obviously it's up to chance. Kelly, what are the odds on a coin toss?
33?
33.
I don't know.
It depends if you call tails.
All right, yeah, depends what you call versus which way it can flip. Or wait, am I overthinking
Yeah,
this?
you might be overthinking this.
You're engineering it again.
I found it to be interesting, and I got a little tidbit, which is really, they call it trivia for a reason. At Zeeland High, my last football year, we actually had pretty good teams while I was in high school. We had an 8-1 season where we lost to an eventual state champ runner-up or a state runner-up. But my senior year, we kind of ran out of numbers, and we ran out of doctor boys, and we were 0-7. And here's the trivial tidbit of that miserable, long 0-7 season. Thank God we didn't play 9 games. We won every coin toss. How about that? I kicked off. We deferred every game. I kicked off every game.
You're immediately down 7-0.
No.
Ouch.
Well, he said they're 0-7, so I'm just kind of
0-7. No, because a little puffery here, because they started at the 20-yard line because yours truly in high school, as soon as it hits the end zone, in high school, we kicked from the 40. And long story short, I always kicked touchbacks in high school when I was young and dumb. So let's get to more important things. Let's talk Fighting Hawks football. Kelly, we always turn it to you first. UND survives 36-33. First half, sluggish. Power outage continued from Cedar Falls. Let's get your thoughts on all things Fighting Hawks last week, Saturday.
These things happen. Folks need to realize it. Teams go through lulls. They don't look good a couple games. Every team does it. Okay, and I think this is their lull right now. I don't expect it to continue, but yeah, it was ugly. First quarter was ugly. Second quarter was ugly. Then all of a sudden they started to put it together. I don't know. They just made a few big plays type of thing and took the lead. And then the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the game was a complete gong show. No, everybody was scoring. Right. Couldn't stop scoring in the last 30 minutes of the game. And how about before we get in, I got a ton of notes here, but that game ended up going over the total. How did that game go over the total? I don't know how it did, but it went way over too. Yeah. It was 7-0 right before half. UND needs a score just to make it 7-7, which is not on pace.
Kelly, it was one of those games like when I'm watching Maction or something late at night when you don't care about who wins if you're a football fan. It was entertaining. But for those of us who cared, the nausea was.
Yeah, it was one of those games, and I understand the fans' angst. They don't want to see that. They want to see a consistent effort 11 weeks a year. But I also put out a tweet that says, if anybody knows how to get 11 weeks of straight effort from a team, by all means, let every coach in America know, because they're wondering. Because this happens to every team there is. Look, and I put out sport. South Dakota had their game of the century last weekend at home against the Jacks, okay, in-state rival. That is probably the biggest game maybe in the history of South Dakota. They made the national championship once in 1985. But other than that, is there a bigger game that they've had where they get the number one at home?
Well, probably the best perspective I ever heard on exactly what you're talking about, Kelly, came from the late, great Flip Saunders. He was on one of the K-Fan radio shows way back when I was still commuting from Jamestown to Fargo for my job. And Flip came on, and the host said, Flip, I don't understand your team. He said, the other night they went out in Denver and they just looked like world beaters. I was ready to say, this is an NBA championship caliber team. Now you came home, you played the Raptors, and you lost by 40 points. I don't understand that. And Flip goes, well, that's a common phenomenon. And he goes, you know what they call that? When a team goes out and they're world beaters one night and they're just flat on their feet the next night? And the host goes, no, what's that called? And Flip Saunders said, sports.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It happens. Well, hey, the Yotes lost 37-3. Did Bob Nielsen have them ready to roll? I don't know. You can't tell me he did. They lost 37-3. I mean, you'd think they'd look like UND against NDSU is what you would think, right?
That's what I was anticipating and watching. I'm like, yeah, this will probably be a tight ball game, but then you can't predict some of those things where it's just the culture of the team. And sometimes in sports you overhype it too, right? Like you put too much weight on it, you kind of get into your own head. And athletes, these guys are 18 to 22 years old. Like how good were you? I know I wasn't good at dealing with stress at that age. So you need some life experience, and that's giving it to them.
And the most fair football podcast in America, also has to credit the Sycamores. Once again, if you didn't care about the outcome, the Sycamores were an 0-7 team. They were making plays late in that game. They never quit.
They're the best.
Never give up. They are the best 0-8 team in the country.
I was just going to say that. They're a talented team, and every team in the Missouri Valley, they're going to have great arms and legs. Their quarterback was dialed in. He was making good plays. They had a couple great athletes.
D-line.
Their D-line was amazing.
Really good.
They're really good. They're probably, 2, 3 in the top half of the D-lines in the Missouri Valley, right? At least.
And they had a good game plan too.
Yeah.
How many times did you see 7 to 8 guys in the box? Like way too many guys in the box this day and age. You don't see that this day and age because teams spread you out. You have to spread out with it. And I was going to make a point of this. UND couldn't get the running game going. 3rd and 3 late. I think we got a bad spot, but it ended up 3rd and 3 if we convert that 3rd and 3, the game's over, right? Mm-hmm. We hand it off to Isaiah, loses 2 yards. They had 8 guys there ready to kill him. We had 5 guys blocking.
Right.
Well, it wasn't going to work. We have an opportunity to get out of that. I know for a fact Tommy could have got out of it, run a little bubble screen or something wide and taken a chance that way, or a pick route. Run a little pick route, roll out pick route, okay? So I was expecting something like that once he saw that box. We can't run against that type of box. We have to do something else. Why did we run for so many yards against NDSU, and why were there such big holes? The box had 5 guys in it. I'm not kidding. Go back and watch the game. If you don't believe me, go back and pick a play where Gavin Zebarth ran through for the line for 5 to 10 yards. They had 5, at the most 6. And the 6th guy was staggered off kind of half in the flats, half over the tight end area. So he really wasn't there. That's all they had in the box. Well, yeah, we're going to,
They weren't worried about a running game, and they were worried about the bubble screens, slant routes, all that stuff underneath, and that's what they were protecting. Well, Indiana State, they knew if they took away the run, they had a good chance at winning the ball game.
They were going to make us go downfield.
Yeah.
And we didn't go downfield till we needed to go downfield.
Yeah, right.
Tommy Schuster, 26 of 37, 1 interception, 285 yards, 4 TDs, and countless sack avoids.
Ooh.
And Tommy was clutch. I rewatched the 4th quarter and the overtime. Tommy Schuster was clutch during that time frame.
Remember the one play, north end zone, where people stand on a catwalk and yell at everyone? The crowd up there. That's the best place to watch a game, though. I equate it to that, so everybody knows which end I'm talking about. It was on the goal line. I don't know. Let's call it the 5-yard line, 3-yard line. Remember when he got out of that sack? I don't know how he got out of it, but he was sacked. They had him inside the pocket. He scrambles out to his left towards the Indiana State sideline, throws it back to Skokna in the end zone. Skokna dropped it. That was actually a perfect pass right on his hands, and he dropped it. That would have been maybe on SportsCenter top 10 if you would have, because I don't know how he got away from those D linemen in the first place. And then he converted it on the run, throwing back across his body. Perfect pass to Skokna. He couldn't come up with it. But Tommy was a magician out there, and
Well,
probably the only reason they came back and won.
And the 21-yard run for a first down. And obviously it's his job to have the top of mind to get up and clock it. But after that 21-yard run, bang, organizing the troops, clock it, and here we go. Now
that run, do you see the D lineman had his foot? I mean, when you watch the replay, it was closer than you think. The D lineman was diving for his calf. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like he was fully stretched out, barely touching. He was diving, going to land on Tommy's calf. Somehow his foot comes slipping out of there. I mean, if he goes down there, oh boy.
Different outcome.
Yeah.
Different outcome. We didn't have, we were out of timeouts at that point, too. Let's go to the defensive side. And Wyatt Pettigo, last year, injuries kind of plagued him down the stretch. But this guy just gets stronger and stronger and stronger as the week goes on, or as the season goes on. 7 tackles the other day, and how many quarterback rushes?
Oh, when the damage they were doing to those running backs, him and Malachi McNeil, they would send them through, and obviously the plan was don't beat them, run through them. Okay, they engage that running back, and I don't know, maybe part of that might be for screens maybe or something. I don't know, you just engage them and take away the leak out, or you know what I mean? But
right, yeah.
Something like that. But they were killing them, though, like driving the running back into the quarterback. No, they wouldn't get there, but they'd come within a yard because they're driving. Oh, Pettigo is playing different level.
Out of his skull right now. He's
speed. They send him on those inside, little twists. I think they're slightly delayed blitz. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Did you call it that, Matt? Like a delayed look?
Yeah, delayed fire, like a delayed fire look to it. So, but defensively, they're the second reason why we won this game, because they kept it close. They were put in tough situations. We weren't having much going on in the first quarter, especially where Indiana State could have gone up a couple scores, where our defense held strong. They bent, they didn't break, right? So throughout the game, our defense did a fantastic job where they came up big in a few situations where they were able to shut. Now, fourth quarter, we kind of let a couple big plays go. But first half, I was very happy with how our defensive played in the first half.
Big loss. Defensive end Ben McNamara left the game in the fourth quarter. He was leading the defensive line, 3.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we preview this week's game against Murray State in our 360 game preview. We'll talk about who's inserted in place of Ben McNamara as well. But huge loss on the defensive side for North Dakota.
Yeah, that one hurt, and that's going to be a few weeks at least, because that was a ankle, but we don't know which ankle. You got to hope lower ankle, but then lower's better than higher, but lower can also, something can break down there too, I suppose, in a foot or things like that. So we got to just hope for the best and get McNamara back for be final week of the year, Illinois State or playoffs if they make it. That one hurts because he's their playmaker. He's their every down guy, third down for sure. Mm-hmm. He's their best pass rusher. So
100%.
Yeah, that one was tough, but the defense, I just a bit discouraged late. I'm glad you brought that up, Matt. Played well up until fourth quarter, and just kind of panic mode set in back, especially in the secondaries. Like that long touchdown down the middle. I mean, Okanzie just didn't even tackle him. Yeah. It's like you can't. I mean, I just grab his jersey. I don't care what you do, but make him snap it again.
Slow him down and then let somebody else grab it.
You can't just kind of grab and let him run then 40 yards for a touchdown. I mean, oh God, that one was bad.
Well, the Hawks knocked out the starting quarterback, and not on any one particular play. It was just, it was death by 1,000 cuts. Right. They knocked him out. Freshman quarterback comes in, made a couple mistakes late. I thought he had a first down, which would have really sealed things or hurt, excuse me, the Hawks' chances in the overtime. Excuse me once again. But what I thought was a critical mistake was when they scored with 47 seconds left. They didn't have to score and give us 47 seconds.
Right.
They could have. True. They rushed up and snapped the ball, and I go, thank you, Sycamores. You have given the Hawks a chance. because they had it first and goal at basically the 1.5 yard line or 1 yard line.
Yep.
They could have taken their time. There's a lot of things they could have done. Certainly could have run more time off the clock. Probably a freshman mistake, but he's got coaches too. And again, thank goodness for the Hawks season, because like we said, we are allowed to look ahead. The players aren't allowed to look ahead, but going 4 losses and having to run the table, and even what that loss would look like, it was a season-saving overtime victory.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we already spoke to what the damage would have been. So, yeah, a lot of things had to go right in the last, 47 seconds in overtime. Right. And in overtime, I wrote down, ISU got a little conservative there. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, they were moving the ball pretty good, and then they just ran twice inside, didn't get anything. And then I think the freshman kind of panicked there. Yeah, he flushed out to his left and could have gone. There was a linebacker there. But if he puts a move on him and gets by him, it's a first down. Yeah, and then he didn't want to throw it because he knew, I'm sure they told him, hey, no mistakes. We got a field goal, right?
Yep.
Well, yeah, they got a little conservative, thankfully for us. And then UND comes out and big run up the middle for Isaiah Smith, gets 9. We plow for the first down, which was a little tougher today. On Saturday, Indiana State made that sneak tough, didn't they?
Hey,
they're pretty good in there.
I'll tell you what, Indiana State's their defensive front played well, and we saw the athleticism in the interception because big dude went a long ways down the field.
Right.
Till he was wrapped up.
He ran pretty good. Yeah, big kid, and then that 5 on the edge, he's tough.
Tough.
Yeah, we had some trouble, and remember, we've pointed this many times. South Dakota had plenty of trouble with them the week before. It was 3-3 at half. It ended up 17-3. Northern Iowa, 27-20, beat them. Okay, they struggled with them. So this team is not as bad as we think. And some of these games, you just got to get out of there with a win. I expect it to look totally different this week, and we're going to get into our game preview, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about the last 2 weeks. I think the team had their lull, especially after the big Bison win. I don't think their minds were right, and I wrote that in the preseason preview on the blog. I said, this is the game that worries me the most was Northern Iowa, because how are they going to come out? Are they going to be ready to go? Well, they weren't, and sure enough. So, yeah, I mean, hey, 5-3, moving ahead.
Yeah.
You got your whole season in front of you.
We still have something to play for, so that's where you want to be at this point in the
Everything is
season.
right
and
there.
I like our schedule the rest of the season.
Final thoughts on Saturday's game, Matt Nelson?
Well, not the win that we necessarily want as fans, but we got the win. We got in our situation where we found adversity, and we were able to find our way out of adversity, and that's the biggest thing. Just talking with a couple of players after the game, they were really proud of this win, and I think it's going to pay dividends moving into the final stretch of the season, give us some confidence to make a run at the playoffs.
Kelly, last thoughts on last Saturday?
Plenty to look at on the tape to get better, that's for sure. And I'm glad they're happy about the win, but they should be pissed off about the way they played, too, for 3 quarters.
That came out, too. We don't want to win this way, but we came away with the win. We're confident that we can get out of a situation like that. So, so that's, I think, positives.
Well, the Kelly Howe Agency, Nodak Mutual Insurance Rewind moves along. We're going to look around at the Missouri Valley Football Conference. But before we do that, it's pretty rare that you get to ask a sponsor directly in the process of a podcast. How's it going over at your agency, Kelly?
Going well. I like it. Yep, things are going good, and good feedback. People seem to like the relationship with UND Athletics and the indoor facility.
How many claims did you have with our ice and snowstorm?
None yet.
It's got to be picking up.
Crossing fingers here. Yeah, I know. That's it. It's claim season coming up, isn't it? Now, I haven't had any yet, but it's it's fun. I like it. I like getting out, meeting people, talking about the business, learning every day. Learn something new every day, and I probably will till I quit. So.
Well, as soon as it started snowing, I was reminding friends and family, hey, you know how much snow we got last year? You better go over and talk to Kelly because there's going to be a lot on your roof this year. So they might have to increase their coverage. But great to hear it's going well, Kelly. It's a great career for you. It allows you to use all your connections and everything else. Kelly Howe Agency, Nodak Mutual Insurance. And, folks, that is the company that made the new addition, phase 2, to the High Performance Center, the Pollard Center up in Grand Forks possible. It's going to say Nodak Mutual Insurance on it. So thank Kelly. Move your insurance over to him. We're going to take a look around the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And before we do that, we're going to welcome a new sponsor. We're blowing up, folks. We're blowing up. Another new sponsor, the Toasted Frog in Fargo and Grand Forks. Here's the first thing I think of when I think of Toasted Frog in either Fargo or Grand Forks. The setting, the restaurant, the bar and restaurant themselves are part of your evening out. They're beautiful. The bars are beautiful. They're historic settings. You got the brick. You got the warmth. Great place to have a great dinner out, especially with wintertime coming along.
100%. And their appetizers are great. Their menu is great.
Full bar.
Drinks, full bar, the whole 9 yards. So when you go up to Grand Forks before or after the football game, if you're going out to the hockey game later that night, make sure to stop and have at least a few drinks and some appetizers at the Toasted Frog.
Downtown in both communities, downtown Grand Forks, downtown Fargo, make it an evening.
Excellent locations, too. Right next, I think, Grand Forks, right next to Joe Black's there. So
right.
You got all the
one-stop shop.
Nice mix. You want to go really tie one on after you're done eating? You go next door too.
They got
when
plenty,
you're done,
plenty of drive up for Ubers for Ubering later.
Right.
We need to get
Plenty
an
of
Uber.
room.
We need an Uber sponsor here. I heard. Now I know hockey fans drink. I've been to hockey games. Again, $9 Busch Light. Sorry, Jody. That's a little steep for Busch Light. We love Jody, but come on, man, $9 for a Busch Light. Anyway, I kid with him. I mean, Jody Hodgson, he runs that place, and don't kid yourself, folks. It doesn't run itself. Good facilities need leadership, just like the Toasted Frog. But here's the thing. We need an Uber sponsor here because I also heard football fans like to drink on occasion.
Yeah. I think they do.
Yeah.
I think they do.
I've
Especially
waited-
a $9 Morgan that I like to get at the Alaris Center.
I've waited in long lines.
Well, you get the special cup. So, nice football cup with it.
I've waited in long lines at the men's room, which means something's going on at the Alaris Center.
Hydrating well.
And the other thing is, while you're waiting in line, I have my media credential on so that if I do need to get in, it comes in handy after the game sometimes. If you got to get to the restroom, if you're on field level or whatever, that's about all I use my media credentials for. But I do get some interesting comments sometimes about UNDFB360 or whatever when you're in the men's room. So there's a lot of good advice, both football and otherwise, being handed out in the men's room at the Alaris Center. I'll let you know that. Let's look around the Missouri Valley Football Conference, and the first thing we're going to do is take a look at last week's scores. Then we'll look at the standings and take a look ahead. Last week, the game of the week was obviously the Rabbits, who went into Vermilion at South Dakota, into the Dakota Dome, 37-3 over the Coyotes. Did anybody expect that?
No, I don't know if the Coyotes went out pheasant hunting early that morning or what happened there, but I expected a closer game than that. But who's to say? Like we talked about it earlier in the cast, that anything can happen with 18 to 22-year-olds, right? Going into a big game and their focus, things like that.
Well, the Oats scored first.
Yeah,
first points on the board.
I think they just got kind of beat up front. They just got bullied. And Coyotes are fairly one-dimensional. They can throw the ball, sure, but the quarterback doesn't run, and they want to run. They want to run their running backs. They want to pound you and just play a methodical, kind of an old NCC-style game where they'd like to get up by 2 scores and shut it down, punt and be safe and, use their defense. Well, I think South Dakota State beat them up front after a while, and they couldn't get anything going. And then it took the Jacks a little while, but then they once they got the lead and got the momentum, it was pretty much over. Yeah, it was over. Too many guys.
So the Rabbits continue their dominance in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Probably going to run the table as we look at things. Got a couple of battles coming. We'll take a look ahead later. Northern Iowa survives Illinois State 24-21. The Panthers playing some pretty good football right now.
Yeah, better. That's just what they did last year too, right?
And we knew that. They're good. They're a great team. They got good talent. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a good run at the end of the season.
Youngstown State 44-28 over Moe State. Murray State, welcome to North Dakota. They make their first trip into North Dakota and face The boys on the north side of Fargo, 38-6 North Dakota State over Murray State.
Bison are back.
Hey,
And I've read stuff that people think, they got it all figured out now.
Well, they got a
played
big
Western
test.
Illinois and Murray.
I know, and Murray. And it's a good recovery after the
Right.
thumping.
Yeah,
they
it'll
took.
make you feel better.
It'll make
Yeah,
you feel better
for
after
sure.
the
Yeah.
thumping they took from North Dakota. Now, I think what we have when we're talking about North Dakota State, and this show said it in the last 2 weeks, they're not as bad as some Bison fans make it out to be. They're not as good as some others make it out to be. They're somewhere in the middle, and after a decade of dominance, that's probably where you're going to be. So there's a lot ahead for the Bison, but they do have a tough schedule. We're going to look at they play South Dakota State this week. They have Northern Iowa, and then Southern Illinois. So they got a tough schedule going.
Good talent.
Speaking of Southern Illinois, they whooped up on their in-state rival Western Illinois 63-0. That qualifies as the biggest in-conference thumping of the season this year for any team.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel bad for Western. I mean, I'm glad they're leaving the conference now, but it's like they're not even competing anymore. They got to be so mentally.
They're going to another FCS conference.
Ohio
right? They're not
Valley.
going. They're not going to D2, are they?
They're going to Ohio Valley Conference. It'll be better competition for them. And again, if you know anything about what's going on in Illinois, big financial issues in government, big financial issues in the university system, and what they are deciding on a legislative level is who are the haves and who are the have-nots. And unfortunately, Western falls on the have-nots. They are not getting funded the way the other schools are. It's going to be a tough battle for Western moving forward.
Yeah, it's not getting any better, and like I said, I just feel bad for the kids because they were playing hard. It's not like I looked at you looked at them. Geez, that was pathetic. No, they were trying. They're just not as good, and I think they're just fatigued. Mm-hmm. So it's just they just got to get through the year, move on, and figure out what they want to do with the program and how they want to allocate what little resources they have. And yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough. I've never been on a team that bad. I've been on some bad teams, but holy man, I mean, they don't even have guys. They can't score. They can't even. You can go into a game and pretty much like when we played them, I said, yeah, they should get around 7. Yeah. I mean, I'd legitimately what did they get? 7 or 10?
Guys,
I don't know what they got.
They're averaging under 50 yards a game rushing. I mean, it's just total dominance. They just can't run on the ground. Let's look at the standings. The Rabbits, 5-0, 8-0 overall. In first place, they of course will look at that North Dakota State game. The Coyotes dropped to 4-1. They are 6-2 overall. Northern Iowa is 4-1. So the Coyotes and Northern Iowa are tied in the conference race at 4-1. Northern Iowa at 5-3 overall. Then comes the 4 logjam at 3-2. North Dakota, Youngstown State, North Dakota State, Southern Illinois, and then the under 500 conference teams 2-3 both for Illinois State, Missouri State, 1-4 Murray State. Comes in next. And then the winless conference teams, Indiana State, Western Illinois. And from seeing both teams, big divide between Indiana State and Western Illinois at the bottom of the conference standings. So
it's interesting. You look at that. Now, I think next week we'll get into our playoff prognostications. I love to do that because then you start. What I like to do is I'll pull all conferences in. I'll print out all conferences, cross out everyone who's out, cross out any 7 and 4s from a bad conference because they're not getting in. That type of thing. So then you get left with, let's say, how many 12 at larges? 13?
I think it's
Is it
11
down to 11 now?
13
so there's
autos.
13 autos.
13
okay.
autos.
So only 11. Here's the thing. If what you just read, Shannon, goes, let's say there's win one, lose one. NDSU win one, lose one. UND win one, lose one. Northern Iowa win one. If it's just a back and forth, they might get 6 at larges.
But Kelly,
I don't know how it would work, but they might get 6. Probably be 5. But,
football is a hobby for me, and I watch a lot of FCS. I love the ability to stream different FCS games, even when there's FBS big-time games on. I'm still looking at East Coast, West Coast, all kinds of things. And the one thing we need to remember is when you listen to Big Sky fans, and we were in the Big Sky for a while, you got to make room for the 9 that they're going to put in the playoffs, because that is the best conference there has ever been.
Well, make room for the darlings.
Here's the thing, though. They're in trouble because a few of them got beat up. It got beat, like Davis is playing their way out. They're out. They're not going to get in anyway, but they're down to 3. 3 at large as the Big Sky is looking at 3.
Our friends in Missoula, the last thing they needed to see happen was the Vandals beat the Cats. And they don't realize it because they want the Cats to lose. Their favorite team is the Grizzlies and anybody who's playing the Cats. So they wanted the Cats to lose, but they don't realize that put them in jeopardy, that the Grizz are in jeopardy. Their strength of schedule is horrendous.
Right. Wow. We'll see how it gets held against them, because I still I'll take it to my grave that Kent Haslam can't be in the room when they're talking about. Oh, they didn't talk about him the rest of the time they were in the room. They didn't talk about anybody. They didn't say they didn't have any conversations. They don't know who Kent Haslam is when he leaves the room. They forget who he is when they're. You mean they're just disparaging Montana as soon as he leaves the room? No, they're not. Okay, that's what this thing is so stupid when they say they got to leave the room, because they had no business getting in the playoffs last year in the first place. And then they get a home game, of course, because they bid so much and everybody they know. But we don't open them until we place it. Really? You didn't know what was inside that envelope from Montana? They see 25,000. You know what's inside there.
Kelly,
so it's like, God.
You probably had the most accurate prognostication of what's going to happen this year in one of your tweets when you said this year is the wrath of Patty V. She isn't going to let it happen this year.
No.
She was very upset last year, and that's Patty Viverito, the Missouri Valley Football Conference commissioner. Very upset what happened. She carried it over to the summer when she described the performance of her own commissioner, or her own representative, and other representatives as incompetent. So hopefully, Patty, we love it that she's on our side now that we're in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. We're going to look at this week, Missouri Valley Football Conference. It's rivalry week, and that's why we're down in Murray State, because Murray State, of course, is our natural rivals. North Dakota at Murray State, kicking off rivalry week, 1 p.m. Saturday from Murray. Big game in the Missouri Valley Football Conference this week. North Dakota State, South Dakota State, rematch of last year's national championship, 2 p.m. from Brookings.
Bison might be in trouble. Yeah. Okay, I'm sure there's going to be. No, they'll make some plays. This isn't going to be. This isn't going to be an all-time beat down or anything. I mean, like people are thinking. Just everyone's equating it to the UND game. This is how bad NDSU can look. Well, God, what's South Dakota State going to do to them? It doesn't always work that way. Yeah. It's mentality of 18-year-olds back to that again, 20-year-olds. Okay, everyone's different.
Right
now, where they're going to get in trouble is their D-line. Yeah, is trying to hold up for 4 quarters.
Right,
that's where they're going to get in trouble. I think this weekend.
They're playing for a rock, and gentlemen, I grew up 2 miles north of the South Dakota border. Saw a lot of those mile markers, and a lot of them were in college dorm rooms because they were often stolen. So that is the mile marker game this weekend. South Dakota goes on the road to Southern Illinois for a 1 p.m. kickoff. Big matchup.
Ooh, now that was one of those where win one, lose one. Somebody's going to, one of the two is going to drop, but still be in the playoffs. Yep. Still be in, but. I don't know. What do you think, Matt? I don't even know if I can pick that one. That one's interesting.
Youngstown State comes in to Indiana State. Could this be the week that Indiana State breaks their losing streak?
I'm trying to think. Could be. I mean, they're a good team. I mean,
they're at home. Yeah.
Youngstown's throwing.
D-line holds up like they did.
They're getting pressure on them. Youngstown's throwing and needs to throw. They run a little bit, that King kid, but. That one, I don't know. That one's going to be interesting. Well, How badly do they want that first win?
And they're at Indiana State.
They are in Terre Haute at Indiana State.
But what home field advantage they have too. So I mean,
They play better at home. There isn't any home field advantage, but with the 800 people there. But it's they seem to play better.
Western goes into Cedar Falls to play Northern Iowa. I think their woes continue there.
Yeah.
And then a big matchup that really affects the Hawks. Illinois State goes to Missouri State. Do the Bears plan on playing this weekend, and can the Bears disrupt things in that middle of the pack?
Sure. They're always a team that can light it up at any given time and during the season. So it just depends on whether they decide to play or not.
It would help. It would help us because I believe Illinois State has 4 losses now, which I said before the season, 4 losses, and they're out. The strength of schedule just isn't there. And I think reality set in now that they're going to be the one, just because all these, 7 teams ahead of them or ever. So I could see them, even if they win, but I could see them dropping this one just motivation-wise. I mean, I guess they could win. Yeah, I mean, they'll win.
Too,
but then you know what they'll do? They'll come in like they did a couple of years ago and come into the Alaris Center.
Guns a-blazing.
Oh, geez, they look good. That their defense was just like rabid that damn. Like they had nothing to play for. Their season was over.
Are they seriously not a playoff team? They look pretty good. And this is what I was thinking. But
their defense, you look at that, just beautiful. I mean, hey, when you watch that defense stand there, I'm like, these guys are good.
Missouri State is a flash in the pan at any given time. So it depends on if they show up.
It'll be interesting. But I'm not too worried about Illinois State win or lose with this one, just because as far as playoffs go. Now I'm worried about that last game of the year by all means, because they can shut down our running game very easily. So motivation is always a big thing, and intent and knowing it's the last game of the year. But like I said, they came in a couple of years ago and looked pretty good.
Whew, that's a lot of information, guys. That's a good segment.
Nap time.
It is now. We're going to take a break. Imagine if we had a guest. If we had to squeeze that in too. We're going to take a break, guys.
But I wanted to. This new segment sponsored by Toasted Frog. I did want to say thanks to John Holth and the guys. They do an excellent job there. Glad we get the relationship going with them. That's what we want. Good local people that support UND. They're one of them. They're at every game. John's at the games. I mean, families there, Hafner's, his in-laws. There have been 50 years. I don't know how many years they've been supporting UND. So great family. I'm glad we can make this come together.
Is there any truth to the rumor that the incarnation of the name Toasted Frog came from watching you in your freshman, sophomore year at the University of North Dakota? As a safety.
Burnt toast.
Toasted frog. Isn't that what they called you?
Yeah.
Frog.
There were plenty of them. That's for sure. I'm going to ask Bubba. I'm sure he'd remember. You got to everybody gets beat. You got to get through. You got to get through those years and learn from them, right? And I got beat a few times, and I actually got beat probably more when I was older. It's a sad thing. It's like,
but you made up for it.
You like to think that you get better, you get older, and then you start stopping and think, oh wait, Mike McKinney at St. Cloud beat me multiple times, and he was really good. And
stuff. Speaking of getting older, we got to take a break. We are winded, as we always are at the end of the segment. When we come back, it's Thunder Lake Lodge 360 game preview. We'll have the Hail Mary quiz. Our 360 game preview, first time matchup between Murray State and North Dakota. It's a 1 p.m. kickoff, Roy Stewart Stadium. We're going to have Kelly and Matt's picks, which are brought to you by Rumor Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino. Will Matt continue his hot streak, or does Kelly get back on track? Again, always, thank you for listening to the podcast. You can get more information at UNDFootball360.com. We're going to take a break. When we return, we will preview this week's matchup versus the Murray State Racers.
Kentucky, keep on a-shining.
This is Garrett Mogg, and you are listening to UND Football 360.
Welcome back. Segment 2, Shannon, Kelly, Matt, UND Football 360. We're getting you ready for a 1 p.m. kickoff Saturday, 11/4, 1 p.m., Roy Stewart Stadium in Murray, Kentucky, a first ever matchup between Murray State, the Racers, and your North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Fellas, Garrett Mogg brought us back, and he is a newly signed member of the USFL's Michigan Panthers.
Good for Garrett. He's sticking with it, and I love it when these guys do this. Exhaust every effort. Keep going, start over. You got in the camp at the Vikings.
You never know what can happen.
Well, especially when you're 6'5" receiver.
Got to keep playing.
You got to just keep going. Like Toivonen. Toivonen just kept hanging around. He was in that online indoor football league thing but made a name for himself.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's in a camp, an NFL camp. So, but that body type with that ability, catch radius, just stay with it. Yep. You can always go get a job later.
That is
stay
exactly
with it.
right.
One of the most famous examples of that, Kurt Warner, working as a grocery guy and playing arena football. 2 years later, he's winning the Super Bowl.
And I contend that Kurt Warner's success is still why the Panthers are in the top 25 every year. They wouldn't even have to field a team. They'd be in the top 25. In our open block, we had another professional former Fighting Hawk, Brady Oliveira, who is up in Canada, the CFL. He's an MVP candidate.
He is blowing up this year, running hard, and it's fun to watch him. He's such a good guy too. All the stuff he does up there with the animals, with the stray dogs, the rescue.
Company,
and just he's from there. So Winnipeg is, it's his hometown. People know him to begin with. Now he's kind of becoming the ambassador, to Winnipeg. He's become the face of Winnipeg when it comes to football and sports, that type of thing, and just. He's just an impressive individual.
He really is. And what a great ambassador for Fighting Hawk football. It's probably important to note there are 5 former Fighting Hawks that are playing professional football right now. Matt Waletzko with the Dallas Cowboys has had some injury. We mentioned Brady Oliveira. We mentioned Garrett Mogg. Garrett would be the 6th. Evan Holm is also making his mark with Winnipeg with the Blue Bombers. And Mason Bennett, Hamilton Tiger Cats. He's a former favorite here at UND Football 360, another just standout individual. And then the man whose name is hard to pronounce, Tyron Frieda, Ottawa Red Blacks.
Yeah, he's playing well, too. His name pops up on my radar every once in a while. I forget about him, but, he's stayed for a number of years up there. So,
he's been playing in
I saw Holm and Oliveira were at the NDSU game. So they had a bye week. So they were down there with one of their teammates. And then our guy Nate Nguyen was with them. Said hi to Nate. Good to see him working down in Minneapolis, construction company, kind of project manager type guy. I'm sure he's outstanding at it.
Man.
Just a smart individual, good kid.
Smart guy, a team guy. We've met so many people. Again, our interaction, we're remote. Obviously, we're based out of Fargo, so our interaction with the players is somewhat limited. But when you get to know these young men as individuals, they're even more impressive than they are on Saturday. This is the Thunder Lake Lodge 360 game preview, which is brought to you by Thunder Lake Lodge in Reamer, Minnesota. And, fellas, it's November 1st, but the season's changed earlier this week. It is damn cold here in the north, and it's time to think about what you can do at Thunder Lake Lodge to break the monotony of winter.
100%, yeah. Ice fishing's right around the corner. It's a great place, northern Minnesota, my home country, Reamer. Fantastic place to be in the wintertime. You got snowmobiling, you got ice fishing, you got the whole 9 yards, and it's a place where you can do something all year long.
Well, you heard our open, and Matt, did you know the artist that was singing "Blue Moon of Kentucky"? I'm guessing you didn't. That was Patsy Cline.
Oh, you know what?
I'm tip of your tongue.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was just about to say Patsy Cline.
And I am not ashamed to admit, back in the CD days, I had the Patsy Cline collection that my children got me. CDs. I know I'm dating
sure
myself.
You're not going to say 8-tracks.
I got one.
Keep going.
Record. Back it up.
Record.
Yeah, Al Jolson.
It's probably on vinyl. Let's be honest.
I saw Al Jolson in person. I did get it. I got the Patsy Cline collection. My children knew my tastes. I got it for Christmas one year. I do love Patsy Cline. It reminds me of KBMR radio when my aunt and uncle owned the grocery store meat market back when I was growing up in south central North Dakota. But it's probably the first time Patsy Cline's ever been used on a football show. But she is my favorite version of Blue Moon of Kentucky. The Hawks are going to Kentucky. You heard the starters gate. And until the 1950s, Murray State was known as the Thoroughbreds. They then shortened it to T-Breds. The baseball team were the Breds until fairly recently. They adopted Racers, but they shortened it up to Racers in the 1950s, but they were the Thoroughbreds, so there is an homage to thoroughbred horse racing in Murray State's nickname. And we are going to talk about the Hail Mary quiz because it is time for the Hail Mary quiz. And, I've started, most of our listeners have said, with the Hail Mary quiz, the best thing about it is don't do a prize for the winner, do a chore for the loser. So this week's chore, I wonder, do you folks know?
Wait a minute.
Yep, go ahead.
Well, I just lost, I think, last week. So
yeah.
So now you implement that as soon as I lose.
As soon as
again?
you lose, I'm going to put a chore.
Here?
Well, wait till you hear.
No,
it.
not when Kelly loses.
Wait till you hear.
You want to tick him off.
Yeah, well, wait till you hear.
Okay, all right, I'll hear you out.
I don't know if the two of you know that the head ball coach's wife, Laura, is a horse person.
I did know that.
Huge horse person.
Very good photographer as well.
Yep, and she does a lot of horse shows. She spends a lot of time in Kentucky at horse shows as a photographer. She has competed at horse shows. She competes in hunter-jumper horse shows. I think she's considering or has retired from that, but now her role with the horses is primarily photography. She has always maintained a horse in Grand Forks or somewhere. Her current horse is named Nash. He is a thoroughbred. When he was racing, his name was Cherokee's Goal. Cherokee's Goal. He's now known as Nash. Nash spends some time in St. Louis. Sometimes he's quartered in St. Louis, so she has an easier... She trucks him to different things, so it's easier to pick him up in St. Louis than truck him all the way from Grand Forks. Long story short, this week's loser of the Hail Mary quiz has to spend a week cleaning up after Nash. I know you guys are city boys, Grand Forks, Bismarck, Duluth. Yeah. You probably never cleaned up after a horse, but it ain't pleasant. So this week's loser has to clean up after the head ball coaches, the first lady of Fighting Hawk football's horse, Nash. This is the first time North Dakota is playing Murray State, but it is not the first time a team from North Dakota has played in the Bluegrass State. Back in 1950, the University of North Dakota played the Wildcats on 11/19/1950. They played the University of Kentucky Wildcats. The Wildcats were victorious that day. This week's Hail Mary quiz is, what was the final score between the Wildcats and the University of North Dakota? And our football expert who comes closest is the winner. Our loser, get a shovel, baby. Kelly, you go first. What was the final score between the Wildcats and the Fighting Sioux?
1950.
1950.
All right, I'm going to factor that in. And, oh, boy. Let's go 10-9.
All right. Kelly goes 10-9.
It was ugly.
Wildcats. Big Ten score. Matt, what do you got in this one? 1950, the Wildcats beat the Sioux. What was the final score?
It's probably like a weird score, like 6-5 or something like that. I'll go 6-5. Yeah, I'll
6-5.
That's what
10,
it
9,
popped
6,
in there.
5.
Yeah,
Okay.
It just popped in there. So
and when
I'm
you
going
hear
with it.
when you hear the final score, I'm going to send both of you out to clean up after Nash because neither one of you is even in the ballpark. In 1950, in fact, on November 19th, 1950. The only other time a University of North Dakota football team appeared in Kentucky, the Sioux lost to the Wildcats 83-0. 83-0. I'm guessing it was a long bus trip home. They probably didn't fly. 83 2-0.
Jeez. I thought they were just good at basketball, but apparently they were good at football back then, too. Oh.
Kelly wins because we're going total points here. Neither one of you deserves to win. 10-9.
I was closest to our
6-5.
points, though. I was, yeah.
You're both going out to clean up after Nash. That's this week's Hail Mary quiz. Let's talk about the 360 game preview right now. First time ever between these two programs. Missouri State has 2 wins on the year. They beat Presbyterian in the opener 41-10. They beat Indiana State, last week's opponent, 30-28. Kelly, moving forward, looking at the Racers, does that Indiana State game have any bearing on what you see as this week?
No, not at all, because everything's different, week to week. We know that, especially with UND. We know everything's different week to week. But as I pointed out in my game review, this is a team of habit. Every year, well, you can pretty much say they're going to be 7-4, 8-3, whatever, right? You guess what they're going to be. Week to week seems to happen too. Last year, week 8, struggle at home with Abilene Christian, and just kind of one of those lull games. You don't know the opponent very well. So Abilene Christian turned out to be a pretty good team last year.
Right.
So and I was impressed with them the entire game. So it was partly due to them, partly due to UND just not able to get anything going. Still won 34-30, I think it was.
Yep.
This year, week 8, Indiana State comes in. Not real familiar with them, but another kind of a struggle. Decent up front, and they got it. So the week after last year, they went to UND went to Indiana State and blew them up. Just 42-7, I think it was. Just killed them. I think this year, another team of habit. I don't think anything applies. I think UND goes on the road and looks like a different team this week. I got a lot of my notes. I don't need to bury the lead here, but yeah, it's interesting stadium. Before I get into it, I looked at an aerial. Seats little under 17,000, all on one side. So a big kind of a half arc,
arc hill or something.
An arc, no, just goes up 50 rows or whatever, 60 rows, whatever that thing is, and kind of bends a little bit around at the corners, to give a better view. I like that, but a track around it.
Oh.
Oof. Yeah, they got a track around their field. Nothing on the other side. The other side's like a high school field, with just some light poles, and that's it.
The fans are a long ways from the field.
Oh, and they're all together on the same side, and like I said, a huge mass of concrete. I mean, those stands it's old, the old Memorial Stadium days.
I was going to bring up Memorial. It sounds like you're describing that, because it seemed like it was so far with the track in between you and the fans.
Yep.
And I was fortunate to play 2 seasons at Memorial before we moved to the Laris, and what a difference when you have the fans right there behind you to like they're 8 lanes away.
It's not an ideal.
Yeah, no, it's not
setup for them anyway. But yeah, looking at this game, Murray State's struggling to score this year. 16 points per game. They allow 32, so got a big negative before the game even starts. A lot of penalty yards, 71 penalty yards. They aren't sacking guys. That stuck out at me. They only got 8 sacks in 8 games.
Like to turn over the ball.
Yeah, turnovers. DJ Williams, our quarterback, 6'3", 210. He's a good athlete. They run him a little bit. They run him. It looks like about 10 times a game they'll run him. And I saw some of the stuff, a little QB power, QB counter, pull the guard. And it can get you. They can get some yards on it, but it's the Murray offense kind of a pedestrian outfit. I equate it maybe when I like the way I talked about Illinois State. Kind of don't take too many chances. A lot of RPO stuff. Run the ball. DJ Williams will take off running a little bit, but yeah, and their coach said it. Before the season, he said it during the season before they played NDSU and stuff. The biggest thing they are realizing, they knew coming in, but they're realizing week to week is line play. Their lines aren't ready yet.
Yep.
And that's kind of shows up, I guess.
Yeah, and I didn't look at when they played NDSU, but just looking at the game before that, Missouri State, when they played Missouri State, DJ had 21. He was 21 for 34, threw for 227, threw for 3 touchdowns but 2 interceptions, and then he was sacked 5 times in that game. So, I mean, that just looking at the stats of just a couple weeks ago, I mean, that there are probably some interior line issues. They're not able to hold up to the blitz. And then good quarterback. And he's an athlete, but he's going to cough up the ball too. So there's going to be some opportunities on defense, I think.
And North Dakota will be without its sack leader, Ben McNamara. Hayden Steck steps in. Hayden's been in the rotation, but he steps into the 2 deep. Talk a little bit about that, Kelly, what that loss of McNamara means.
Well, it's your best D lineman. It's your most dynamic D lineman. It's your every down D lineman, especially 3rd and long guy. They like to kick him out to that 7, 9 technical, whatever, way out there and let him come off the edge, work the tackle over a little bit, and he's gotten pretty good at that role. So it's going to hurt in that regard. I mean, a guy like Jalen Johnson's probably got to step up, get out there. I don't know if they move, say a Jack Tyken, let him put him out there and turn him loose, instead of keeping him on the inside, and let him see if he can beat a guy one-on-one, that type of thing. You just got to find someone to replace him, but you're not going to replace the production is the problem, and Ben's going to be out multiple weeks, I'm sure, based on what, I saw, the way he came off the field. So I don't see, it's going to be tough. But this game, I don't see it being as big in this game, where next week at South Dakota, it could show up. Definitely show up missing your best defensive player. We don't want to have that, but tough break for Ben. He had been playing well again, but Murray, I'm just trying to get a handle on these guys. Yeah, I think it's just a learning year for them. Their only win was they beat Presbyterian, who moved down to the Pioneer, and they weren't good before they went to the Pioneer, and now they're technically non-scholarship. And then they beat Indiana State by 2, like we mentioned. So played Missouri State tough. The game you mentioned, Matt, 28-24.
Yeah,
so
they did.
Played them tough.
It was a good game. Like. I mean,
they're all right. And our guy Jason Coley transferred there. We got to mention that he doesn't start at safety, but I think he gets in there a little bit. He usually has a tackler to a game. So Southern Illinois, they lost 27-6. So I think their defense is okay. I think their defense keeps them in there. They just can't score points at times is their issue. So then it just slowly gets away.
Right, and field, that affects your field position, and when your offense gets in trouble, your defense can only do so much for so long.
And they slowed North Dakota State down in the second half, but North Dakota State went to a ground game and basically said, we're going to just run this thing out. We got a big game next week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's, as far as UND offensively, I think this is the game, where you try to get back to the run. You try to go downfield a little bit. You got to get something on tape. The last 2 weeks, we threw more 2-yard passes than I've ever seen in my entire. We're taking it to an extreme here with the amount of tunnel screens and bubble screens. It's just too much. It was. They got to get going. They got to get in a rhythm. The only way Tommy gets in a rhythm is when he starts connecting. Those don't do anything for him. 2-yard passes don't get a quarterback in rhythm. He gets in rhythm when he's hitting Bo on the little switch routes and pick routes and the corner routes for 17 yards on the sideline. Those passes. That's when you see Tommy start to, all right, here we go. And we might need to go tempo. Tommy's better when we go tempo, when we don't huddle.
When we proved that last game, I mean,
he's
out. He's already. I don't think he has time to overthink things either. Like he's a smart kid. Yeah, when we went to that tempo offense in the fourth quarter last week, we had things moving. Our offensive line didn't have time to do a bunch of checking.
Nobody has time to think.
Line up and go.
Right.
And
you don't overthink this thing. You don't breathe. You don't look in the crowd and look around.
Go 2-minute first quarter.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the coaches realize that, but the downside is you go 3 and out. All of a sudden, you do it a couple times in a row. 3 and out. Now your defense is out there real quick.
35 seconds off the clock.
Right. That's the downside, which nobody wants that. But I don't think you'd go 3 and out if you ran the offense this way. because they would get the running game would get going pretty soon. You run up there quick, you snap it, you just hand it off.
Right.
Well, now you're plowing for a few in the inside. You're catching them. You know,
if you have Quincy Vaughn in there, defense doesn't know what's coming at them.
Yeah, I just like to see them change it up a little bit. Sitting in the huddle, it seems like they need a shot in the arm. They need something to get them going again. They had 450 yards, UND did, last week of offense. If you told me they had 300, I'd have believed you. Somehow they had 450 yards. I don't know how they did it. But that's pretty good output, and they had
only 7 points at halftime.
Right, and only 7. So, I don't know. This one, I don't know what I always tell myself, what do I want to see? I just want to see fluidity on offense. Efficiency. I want to see rhythm. Yeah. I don't care how you do it. I'm not going to say, I need to see inside zone. I don't need to see inside zone. I need to see rhythm. I just want to see them looking good when they're,
crisp.
Looking good. Guys running, get their stuff going, the mesh stuff, the RPO, the pick routes. I don't care. Get it going and start moving, frustrate the other team, and that's when we become a 3-phase football team.
Speaking of 3 phases, any word on the return of Gavin Zebarth or Red Wilson? Neither one in uniform last week.
Zebarth, I doubt it. I mean, I think he's closer. I think he's closer than he is further away, but you don't bring him back this week. Next week's when you bring him back. You need him next week. So I highly doubt they would play Zebarth this week, even if he was close. Red Wilson, I don't know what he's hurt or I don't know what's going on there, but he wasn't even dressed. So you tell me. I don't know. I didn't see him get real hurt, real injured in that game, and he looked like he was standing on the sideline okay 2 games ago, and all of a sudden last week he isn't dressed. You tell me. I mean, my conspiracy flag goes up. Okay, I like to do that. I'm very good at that, and you tell me. I don't know. I mean, you don't go from staying on the sideline in your uniform to not dressed.
Right. There's a progression there.
Unless you got hurt in practice. I don't know. I have no idea. But I highly doubt it.
He tried to come back and then not.
So he wasn't even dressed. So I'm not even going to count on him this weekend. I think it's Isaiah Smith, which there was a chance. He has a little concussion issues a couple weeks ago. So that's why I mentioned last week that he might not play, but he was fine, I think, as it turned out. So it'll be Isaiah Smith, and then I was surprised Seidel didn't get in there. Did he even play last week?
He did. Yeah.
What did I miss? How many plays do you think it was?
2.
2, okay.
Sawyer played 2. Both got
wonder what I was doing. I must not have
busted
seen it.
up.
Okay.
Our freshmen last week looked like freshmen. Corey Ty, Sawyer Seidel. And again, they are freshmen. I know there's a lot of excitement about both Sawyer and Corey. They are going to be tremendous fighting Hawks. They looked like freshmen last week.
By the way, that 2-point conversion that we should not have gone for in the first place. Should I start up on that one? No, I already covered it to death, I think, on that one. But, okay, he was going to throw that. Yeah, it was that you could see his arc. His arc was backwards, so he stays eligible to throw it.
It was a lateral.
But the back of I think it was Elijah Klein was wide open in the back of the end zone. It would have been a good play but he didn't. I mean, I'm sure he was nervous running out there. He didn't even catch the lateral, So freshman being freshman, but you got to give him a chance, and that's what everyone wants to see. So do we see Seidel now this week? I equated it to game flow. Things weren't flowing. Danny was probably getting a little nervous, having to dig deep. You don't put freshmen in when you're in a 7-0 game, 7-7 game with a 0-7 team. Mm-hmm. You don't start putting Sawyer Seidel in. I think that's why he didn't play. You got to just put Isaiah Smith played a majority of the game, it seemed like. So
and a 71-yard scoop.
Oh, that was big.
Was a game turner. Yep.
That's what we had he done that yet this year?
I don't think so. I don't think he busted one. I don't think he busted one and just ran out of gas. How about the D-back that ran him down? Don't see that too often. That guy is.
Yeah, I think Isaiah had been waiting for that because they showed when he was coming off to the sideline, guys were hitting him on the helmet, and he's just like a sigh of relief. Yeah. He finally broke one, and he is the home run guy, but it's just been a by committee approach. So, but this week's him. Mm-hmm. It's his show. So if we get ahead, it's going to be a lot of Isaiah Smith and Skokna. In Skokna, they'll share the carries, but he did a good job. Did a good job last week filling in for Zebarth.
Stinger for Luke, but he came back in. I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, he's hanging his arm. God, that had me worried.
Yeah.
Can we lose another one?
We're already going into the depth chart. You guys ready to take a look at this week's picks?
Sure.
Matt and Kelly's picks are brought to you by Rumors, Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino. Hey, we got a special treat this week, Hawk fans, because our own broadcast team, our own television crew, is going to Murray, Kentucky. Brian Sean, Ryan Kosowski from Midco Sports. And I always say, we see the quality that we get from our radio and broadcast teams when you have to listen to the opponents' broadcast teams. This is a big deal. And again, FCS football is as good as it gets up here. We are top notch. And when you get into some of these other areas, you got the B team doing the game. But Brian and Ryan are going to be in Murray, Kentucky.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad they did that. And a little tidbit on that.
Taylor Budge.
Oh, she going with sideline
Taylor's
too?
going
So
sideline.
three of them.
Sweet.
Good. Yeah, they East Grand Forks playing DGF last weekend and ended up losing. But if they won, they were in the Fargo Dome here this weekend. In the section final or whatever it's called, and they were going to need someone to replace Ryan, and there was an outside small chance that yours truly
Got the call.
was going to be on TV, guys.
What is our commission? We've been farming you out lately to these other shows. What, Matt, have you gotten a commission check?
No.
They would have
I
needed
haven't.
someone to go with,
Oh, that
yeah, it was
would've been
interesting.
fun.
I don't know if they would might have wised up, but I have experience with them. Worked for him for 2 years, sideline reporter. But yeah, that would have been interesting. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun game. I like it when they go a place we haven't been before. I think it's interesting, and I like that they're doing it too. So even though they're heading down, will the ESPN broadcast be?
I think they still pick
Murray?
it up. We get it local on Midco, and they still pick it up ESPN Plus. So fans across the country are still going to be able to access it. And
So if you hit the ESPN Plus, you're not getting Murray's. Because I assume Murray's still going to do it, right?
Murray's still going to do it. You're probably going to get Murray's.
I wonder
on
who.
ESPN.
Yeah, because
But
people
here
got to
is-
get the Midco
Guys,
package.
My wife and I missed an opportunity here. We canceled our plans to go to Boise. We did go to Brookings last year. We went to Lincoln. Here is I'm going to put a bug in the ear of Hawks fans for 25 Murray State game when we go down to Murray State. You can fly in to Nashville on Allegiant. You can leave Thursday. You can come back Sunday. It is the perfect football weekend. And Nashville is a 2-hour drive from Murray, Kentucky. Murray is a beautiful city, beautiful community. Kentucky's a beautiful state. But we missed the boat this year. We do have a grandson who's having his second birthday, so we are going to be here doing that. But I'm going to look at the 25 schedule. This could become a thing because you can fly on Allegiant to Nashville.
That's not a bad idea.
That is a great football weekend trip. Jack Michaels, Mike Berg, Paul Ralston are going to be on the radio call. It's 1 p.m. kickoff, so it's going to be a noon pregame start on the Fighting Hawks radio network as well. Rumors brings you, Kelly and Matt's picks, and Billy and the boys are certainly going to have the game on Saturday.
Oh yeah, they're ready to go as always in Rumors, so you can hit up Billy maybe for some pony advice while you're in between. You can watch the UND game, watch the screens from Saratoga. See how the races are going. I don't get that stuff. That's
it's
crazy
beyond
how
me,
you read
right.
charts. Those people
Yeah.
read those charts like I understand speed or whatever, but what? I mean, there's 10,000 horses.
Have you ever
racing.
played?
It's a cult following.
Have you
I
ever
don't
played
get
the
it.
dogs, Kelly?
Oh, when I was little, I did.
Oh, the dogs
Yeah.
are fun.
When I was little, I went out to Rapid City. Don't they have dogs?
They might.
I went
Iowa.
South Dakota had something
Iowa has
too.
dogs.
Okay.
And I've been to the dogs in Iowa. I'm not a big better, as we've talked
Yeah,
about
betting
before.
on greyhounds.
I'm not betting on greyhounds. I bet enough on business. But there is a formula when you're watching the dogs, and you got to watch the dogs when they go to post, when they go into the starter blocks, and you know where I'm going. The last one that nature calls, bet on that dog.
Oh, really?
He's going to win. So there's your tip for the day. Guys, we got to get to your picks. Last week, Matt, you were coming off a 2-week streak.
I know.
You had. And you picked Hawks 27-14, which was 41 total points. Kelly picked the Hawks 37-13, 50 total points. You were both miserably wrong, but we are going to declare Kelly the winner on total points. 36-33 the outcome, 69 total points. That takes Kelly's record to 5-2-1, Matt to 2-5-1, and breaks Matt's streak.
Yeah. I'm glad we both got the winner, though.
You did both. The winner.
That was pretty
Take the
good.
good with the bad.
And Matt, that means you got to go first this week. Matt, who do you have in this, and what do you got for a score?
34-10 Hawks.
That was close. Close to what I was going to pick. I need to change mine here.
Oh, now you.
Bob,
Now I feel
first.
bad. Now I feel
Bob
bad
Barker.
about my pick.
Kelly is on.
Considering you thought it was.
Kelly is on. Kelly's on contestant row.
Uh-oh.
Looking at what that is, he may go $1 under.
I think I won't do that, but geez, I don't want to change. That was very similar to what I was thinking. I'm gonna bump it up a little bit. Let's get some more points out of UND this week. Then we'll go 41-9. 41-9. We're gonna see something weird happen. There's gonna be a safety or 3 field goals or something this week.
So what were you gonna, what was yours?
35-10.
Oh, really?
35-10. That's funny. Yeah.
You would have prices righted me.
Right, yeah. So we'll go 41-9. I think UND breaks out this week, similar to how they did it last week. The offense is not going to stay in the funk, I guess you'd call it, but they still, like I said, they still put up yards. But yeah, I expect a much better effort on the road, kind of recalibrate, retool a little bit during practice this week and get away from town and get a 6th win of the year, get to 6-3 and go down to the Danger Dome next week, and
Yeah, I like it.
everything's in front of you.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep.
So our football experts both go Hawks this week. Matt Nelson, 34-10 Hawks. Kelly Howe, 41-9 Hawks. Okay, I do not pick a score, but here's what's going to happen. Because we're in the thoroughbred state, and our thoroughbreds this week are Luke Skokna and Isaiah Smith, I am calling that each will have a touchdown scoring run of 30-plus yards. Thoroughbreds running in the thoroughbred state.
Fireworks.
Fireworks.
I like it.
The ground game gets back on track. Kelly, Howe, we're going to go to you first for final thoughts.
Let's enjoy the season, everyone. I was walking in here, I'm saying, let's pump it up around here. All right, they're 5-3. Things aren't falling apart. We're not 3-5. Fan base is getting a little too negative, Matt. A little too much angst. Do you agree with that?
Yeah,
I would, but it's for good reason, because they're expecting us to be at the top of the conference.
Right.
We have a lot of life in our fan base right now.
Right.
We're expecting wins, which we haven't had that for a while, right? So we're expecting for those wins to keep rolling in every week. So I think that's where the negativity is, because our expectations have just leveled up, which is a good thing to have for us.
Well, the 3 losses were probably fairly predictable, according to if you go look at my preseason blog post.
They were.
Okay, the 3, or if you're going to lose the 3 to this point, it's those 3. Well, sure, they could have had Northern Iowa on paper, but they weren't going to get that one that week. So it's time to regroup here. Mm-hmm. Fans, team regroup. We said I think they'll come out looking better. Yeah. Fans, let's regroup. Playoff run. Let's get it pumped up. And in 2 weeks, Illinois State, that last game of the year, that can be a big one. Okay, that could be a real big game, and that's where there's got to be 9,000 plus in the building getting loud, because you're either playing for the playoffs that game, or you're playing for a seed in that game. So that's going to be a big one.
And fans are important. This is entertainment. Fans are important, and far be it from me to argue with a bunch of guys who are hopped up on $9 bush lights.
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, they're getting mad because they're going to games. They're paying to go, paying a fee, paying $15 to park. Holy God, that got me.
It's almost worth walking over.
Luckily, I have a pass. Well, do you see how many people walking?
They're
walking from
the
over
street.
Altru.
Yes, they are.
Like towards Altru. They're parking way down just to save the 50. And I don't blame them. I mean, you get season tickets. That's this year it's $90 to park then, because I think they have 6 home games, right? Yeah. Yep. So Oof, yeah. So anyway, I mean, you're paying a lot of money. My point is, I know they're expecting. They want to see a good polished product. They want to see continuity flow.
Right.
They weren't seeing it. I get it. But, hey, that's why there's
sports.
3 games left.
There's
sports,
sports,
right? 3 games left. Let's do it. We're all in this together. That's what we got to remember. We're all in it together.
right.
We all want to win, right?
We all want. Everybody loves a winner. That's why we love Kelly. He's a winner. Matt Nelson, final thoughts on what you're looking for this weekend?
I'm looking forward to this week. I think being on the road is always a special time for a team, too. You kind of leave the distractions at home. You get your team together. You build camaraderie. I think that's really important right now, especially after coming off a overtime win and running into a few of the players at dinner afterwards. Wasn't expecting that. Feedback was really good. The guys are feeling good camaraderie. They were proud of the win. They knew that it wasn't a way that they always want to win. They knew they had to be better, but I liked the attitude, I liked the drive, and I like that going into the final couple games of the season. I like that going on the road. So fans out there, our team is doing good. The guys are in the right place. Our coaches are doing a great job. So I'm liking this win down in Murray State.
And as always, folks, a reminder, get your green on this weekend. Even though it's a road game, get your green on this weekend. I'm going to thank our sponsors, Rumor Sports Bar, Grill, and Casino, Development Homes Incorporated, Thunder Lake Lodge of Reamer, Minnesota, the Kelly Howe Agency of Nodak Mutual Insurance, Interstate Industrial, and our newest sponsor, the Toasted Frog of Fargo and Grand Forks. Fellas, always a pleasure working with you guys. You know, there's a reason we do this podcast each week, and it's because of the money, the cars, and the girls. And
Bingo.
Yep. And it is, that's why we do this. What else is there? But it's always a pleasure working with you guys. We bring it every week, and that is what we always talk about, folks. Win or lose, we're going to bring you entertainment, and we love following Fighting Hawks football. Kickoff, reminder, 1 p.m. from Roy Stewart Stadium in Murray, Kentucky. If you can't watch on Midco, or if you have that sync thing or whatever you got, Jack Michaels, Mike Berg, Paul Ralston, 12 p.m. pregame. There is no better call than Jack Michaels. The TV broadcast team, Brian Shawn, Ryan Kosowski, Taylor Budge on the sidelines. Folks, we are blessed with quality broadcasts for Fighting Hawks football. UND Football 360 podcast is recorded at the 3-Run Single Media Studios in Rocking Horse Farm, Fargo. For more Fighting Hawks football coverage, visit UNDFootball360.com. For the All-American Kelly Howe and the national champ Matt Nelson, this is Shannon Schweikert. Go Hawks.